Now let's get to the constitutionality of this thing, because the constitutionality of this thing is completely specious. There is no basis upon which Joe Biden has the power to do this. None. I know we left the Constitution behind a long time ago in this country. I know that we now think that the president basically has the power to declare anything. And during COVID, it got even worse. During COVID, it was like, hey, some old people are going to die of a disease. This means you don't have to pay your rent. You're a 20-year-old who's working a gaming job. You don't have to pay your rent anymore for like 2 years because the CDC says so. I understand that we all went nuts in 2020, 2021. But even Nancy Pelosi last year was saying Joe Biden did not have the singular power to cancel student debt. This is last year. Shades of Barack Obama saying that he didn't have the power to simply declare that illegal immigrants would never be deported. And then he just did it. Anytime, just as Democrats frequently say, this crazy left-wing radical fringe idea will never become mainstream, and then 10 years later they're doing it. Whenever Democrats say we don't have the power to do X, within about 18 months, they will be doing it. So here's Nancy Pelosi 1 year ago declaring Joe Biden did not have the power to simply cancel student debt.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. Not everybody realizes that, but the president can only postpone, delay, but not forgive.
Okay, but Joe Biden just did that, right? He said he's going to forgive. So what is the legal basis for this? This is totally crazy. And I think Joe Biden knows this is crazy. And so it leads me to believe that as a legal strategy, what Joe Biden is doing here is he's campaigning against the Supreme Court, because my guess is that this is going to be appealed by somebody. Right? They have to find somebody with standing. It's hard to find somebody with standing in this particular case because you have to show that you were damaged. And you as a general taxpayer can't show standing. But assuming that there is some sort of lawsuit, say by Congress, saying that Joe Biden exceeded his powers here, and it goes to the Supreme Court, this is probably not going to fall under the political question doctrine. Probably this is going to fall under the delegated powers, right? Whether Joe Biden actually has the inherent powers to do this. And if it gets struck down by the Supreme Court, then Joe Biden will then campaign against the Supreme Court. I did my best, guys. I tried to relieve the student revenue, and the Supreme Court said that I wasn't a match valve. Yeah, that may be what he's doing here, legally speaking. That is the only way that I can explain how he purports to do this. According to the Office of Legal Counsel opinion, explaining how Joe Biden is doing this, what gives Joe Biden the power to simply say that you, a person who took out a student loan, now no longer have to pay that student loan? What gives him the power to do that? Get ready for this. It is the HEROES Act of 2003. Now you're thinking to yourself, what is the HEROES Act of 2003? I don't even remember that. That's 20 years ago, man. What are we talking about here? Well, the HEROES Act of 2003, which was passed in the aftermath of 9/11, right? What was that designed to do? It was designed to allow the Secretary of Education to waive or modify loans because of a national emergency. Like, say, for example, there was a massive terror attack in the United States, a nuclear attack in the United States. Do you still have to pay off your loan this week? The idea was the Secretary of Education could cancel loans if they had to. Joe Biden is now declaring that because of COVID, he can just cancel the student loans. According to the Office of Legal Counsel, quote, we conclude the act grants that authority. The plain text of the HEROES Act authorizes the Secretary to waive or modify any statutory or regulatory provision applicable to the federal student loan program, an authority that encompasses provisions applicable to the repayment of the principal balances of loans, provided certain conditions are met. We conclude that targeting relief toward those individuals who suffered financial hardship because of COVID-19 and who otherwise satisfy the requirements of the Act accords with the Act's requirement that the waiver or modification be necessary to ensure that student loan recipients affected by a national emergency are not placed in a worse financial position with respect to their loans as a result. Are you kidding me? We have an unemployment rate in this country of less than 4%. College grads have the lowest unemployment rate of any educational subsection of the American population. And your declaration is that they have a national emergency based on COVID to relieve their student loans? That is the case that you are making legally speaking? Okay, that is obviously specious. It is obviously stupid. And everyone obviously knows that. But Joe Biden's going to do it anyway because, again, it doesn't matter how you do it, gang. It just matters that you do it. It's all about the power. This is why when you hear Democrats talking about how they're defenders of democracy, explain. Seriously, explain. Explain how it's democracy to have a regulatory authority under the President of the United States simply unilaterally declare that he can relieve debt. And by relieving debt, by the way, it doesn't mean debt disappears. It means you pay it. I pay it. My kids pay it. That's what it means. Because the fiscal cost on this thing is extraordinary. We'll get to more on this in just 1 second. First, how did you choose which internet service provider to use? Well, the sad thing is, pretty much no one has a choice because ISPs operate like monopolies in the regions they serve. They then use that monopoly power to take advantage of customers. Worst of all, many ISPs log your internet activity and sell that data on to other big tech companies or advertisers. To prevent ISPs from seeing my internet activity, I protect all of my devices with Expressvpn. So what exactly is Expressvpn? Well, it's a simple app for your computer or smartphone that encrypts all your network data and tunnels it through a secure VPN server so your ISP can't see any of your activity. Just think about how much of your life is on the internet. Sadly, every site you visit, video you watch, or message you send gets tracked by ISPs or other tech giants who can then sell your information for profit. That's the reason I recommend ExpressVPN as the best way to hide your activity online from your ISP. Here's the thing, the ExpressVPN app, it's really easy to use. So I just open it up on my phone. Right now it says, unfortunately, I'm not connected, which means I'm subject to the predations of others. But I hit the button and boom, now it's connected. And this means I'm impervious. ExpressVPN does all of that without slowing your connection, which is why it's rated the #1 VPN service by TechRadar, The Verge, and countless others. So stop handing over your personal data to ISPs and other tech giants. I've told you this 1,000 times. Instead, protect yourself with a VPN I trust to keep me private online. Visit expressvpn.com/Ben Shapiro Show. Get 3 extra months for free. Okay, I want to get to the fiscal cost, but I'm trying to break this down into a variety of issues here. The constitutionality, it does not exist. What it does for the college system, it subsidizes a crap scam system that is predicated on preying particularly on people in poor areas who are getting degrees from institutions and universities that do not benefit them. And then you get to the question, let's get to the fairness question here, because Democrats keep saying that it's fair. So this is an amazing thing. Joe Biden was asked yesterday, how is it fair for people who never went to college to subsidize those who did? How is it fair for people who paid off their student debt to subsidize people who did not pay off their student debt? How is that fair? I mean, by the way, you could ask this question about people who don't pay off their credit card debt. If Joe Biden really wanted to relieve everybody's pressure these days, why doesn't he just cancel all credit card debt? After all, we have trillions of dollars in outstanding credit card debt in the United States. Why not just do that? After all, money magically grows on trees. And as we know, the fairest thing is for you to take out irresponsible debt and then for your neighbor to pay it. The fairest thing is for predatory lenders to prey on people to go to the local hairdressing salon for a quote-unquote university course and then for you to bail them out. That's the fairest thing, probably. Here is Joe Biden trying to answer why any of this is fair when it obviously is not.
Mr. President, is this unfair to people who paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses that see why these guys get them all at tax breaks? Is that fair?
Is it fair that some ostriches can't fly? Is that fair? Is it fair that iguanas freeze and fall out of the trees in wintertime in Florida? Is that fair? What's fair, man? What's fair?
He's asked a very specific question. Why is it fair for people who paid off their loans to now pay everybody else's loans? And his answer is multi-billion-dollar businesses or some such nonsense. The hell does that have to do with the price of tea in China? What are you even talking about, dude? It's just nonsensical gobbledygook from a person whose face hole doesn't work right. It's unreal. And by the way, it's going to cost you so much. We are talking hundreds of billions of dollars. This is the largest single spending initiative by a president unilaterally ever. There has never been an executive action this costly in the history of the United States, what Joe Biden is doing right now. Understand the magnitude of this. You're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars poured in on the basis of Joe Biden's perception of fairness. By the way, this is the kind of garbage that you get from Bernie Sanders, right? You got to love the non sequiturs. And no matter what the question is, Bernie says, is it truly fair that there are some rich people in this country? Is that a fair thing? What? You're paying the rich people. That's what this program does. It gives money to people who have a combined couple income of $250,000. Are those the poorest among us? So Bernie Sanders tweeted out, the average amount of debt forgiveness to businesses receiving PPP loans is $95,700. If we could afford to cancel hundreds of billions in PPP loans to business owners in their time of need, please do not tell me we can't afford to cancel all student debt for 45 million Americans. So a couple of points here. One, PPP was designed to preserve the employment of people who were not allowed to go to work. That's what it was. Second, it was massively inflationary, and it lasted way too long. Third, there's an enormous amount of scams inside PPP, enormous amount of monies that went to people who shouldn't have gotten them. This, by the way, is the typical left-wing line. So they tried to use this on me, believe it or not, on Twitter yesterday. It was unbelievable. So yesterday on Twitter, suddenly I realized I'm trending because of all of this. And I'm like, why? I don't understand. I was barely online yesterday. I was actually on a plane. So what exactly is what's going on? Well, it turns out that some idiot schmucks on the left decided that they were going to look up whether I personally had taken PPP loans. And then they tweeted out a screenshot of a person named Ben Shapiro in Los Angeles who had taken $21,000 in PPP loans. Okay, this then appeared in truthodfiction.com, which is a Snopes-like fact-checking website, and the Indy 100, which is the UK Independent, and Uproxx entire articles about how I was a hypocrite for opposing the relieving of student loan debt because I had taken PPP money. One, no, I didn't, you lying sacks of bleep. I never did. And you morons in the media, I mean, this is repeated all over, all the blue checks are tweeting this. Like hundreds of thousands of retweets from various sources. The screenshot itself, if expanded to the right, demonstrated that the person who actually took those loans was in the business of real estate agenting, which, as you may have noticed, I'm not a real estate agent. Okay, so it was just a lie. It didn't matter. It had run around the world. It was too late. It was printed in Truth or Fiction, and I had not denied it. Okay. Daily Wire, by the way, also has never taken PPP loans. Second of all, when Bernie Sanders says that PPP is the same as you taking out a loan to go major in modern art at the local JUCO, that is not the same thing by any stretch of the imagination. But it's typical Bernie Sanders. So Bernie Sanders tweets that, and then he tweets a little bit more. And so Bernie Sanders' second tweet here, he tweets, if SoFi, a student loan refinancing company, could give its CEO a 92% raise last year, paying him a grand total of $103 million in compensation, and spend $625 million to put his name on the LA Rams football stadium, do you know what President Biden can do? Cancel all student debt. What? So, number one, I noticed that you bailing out the loans helps companies like SoFi. So there's that. Second, if a private company can do X, the government can do Y, is not an argument. That is a complete non sequitur. If Jeff Bezos can buy himself a private jet, Joe Biden can ride a nuclear weapon to Mars. Like, what? What are you talking about? What are you even... We have a bunch of geriatric dotards running the country who can't even string together basic AB logic. It's insane. This guy is an ideological leader of the Democratic Party. It's crazy. If your local business is able to charge you slightly more for a gallon of milk thanks to inflation, why cannot Joe Biden simply relieve all credit card debt and fart rainbows? Clearly, he has the constitutional... If you, at your local gas station, are able to charge $5 for a gallon of gas, well, then Joe Biden can mandate that everyone simply use horse manure to power their cars forever, obviously. The fact that this is considered an intelligent human being on the left demonstrates how unintelligent our political discourse is, because this is basic, stupid nonsense. It's nonsense. It's fairness, though. It's fairness. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all our future content.